What if I told you that the greatest trick you ever played on yourself was believing that you are waiting for the world to give you permission? We live our lives in the waiting room. We wait for the promotion. We wait for the right time. We wait for the evidence that we are going to be okay. But Napoleon Hill, the grand architect of American success, whispered a secret to us nearly a century ago. He told us that thoughts are things, and powerful things at that. Welcome to the hour that changes everything. Today, we are not just talking about positive thinking. That is too small. We are talking about a fundamental law of the universe, the law of autosuggestion applied through definiteness of purpose. The premise of this hour is simple, yet terrifying to the average mind. What if you acted as if everything, every failure, every setback, every closed door, was actually a conspiracy by the universe to move you toward your definite chief aim? Hill taught us that every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. Most people see the adversity. Few cultivate the seed. For the next hour, we are going to dismantle the fear that holds you in place. We are going to install a new operating system in your subconscious mind. We are going to learn how to act as if, not as a form of pretense, but as a form of command to infinite intelligence. Let us look at the mechanism. How do you act as if, without feeling like a fraud? Hill defined autosuggestion as the agency of communication between that part of the mind where conscious thought takes place and that which serves as the seat of action for the subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is a fertile garden. It does not care if you plant corn or nightshade. It will grow whatever seeds you feed it. For years, you have been feeding it doubt. You have been acting as if you might fail. You have been acting as if you aren't ready. And your subconscious has dutifully produced the weeds of hesitation. To act as if everything works out is to hijack this mechanism. When you walk into a room acting as if you are already the person you wish to be, you are not lying to others. You are broadcasting a signal to your own subconscious. Hill said, "Faith is the only known agency which will give your thoughts the nature of spiritual form." When you act with confidence before you have the result, you are transmuting your thought impulses into their physical equivalent. You are telling the ether, the great connecting medium of the universe, that you are ready to receive. You must stop looking for the path and start becoming the destination. You do not wait for confidence to take action. You take action, and confidence is the receipt the universe hands you for your bravery. But what happens when it goes wrong? Because it will. The road to the temple of wisdom passes through the valley of defeat. The prompt for your life is, "Everything always works out for me." How can you hold this belief when you lose the job? When the business fails? When the relationship ends? Napoleon Hill studied the most successful men of his time: Carnegie, Ford, Edison. He found that they all shared a secret ability. They possessed the capacity to look at a disaster and ask, "Where is the seed?" This is the hardest work you will ever do. When you are acting as if the universe is on your side, a rejection is not a denial. It is a redirection. If you miss the flight, you assume the plane you were meant to be on is leaving later. If you lose the client, you assume a bigger client required that space in your schedule. This is not delusion. This is applied faith. Hill wrote, "Most great people have attained their greatest success just one step beyond their greatest failure." If you quit, you prove the failure was real. If you persist, acting as if the failure was merely a test of your persistence, you transform that lead into gold. This is the alchemy of success. You must walk through the fire acting as if you are fireproof. Not because you are arrogant, but because you know that the heat is necessary to forge the steel of your character. You cannot act as if you do not know who you are trying to be. A ship cannot have a favorable wind if it has no port of destination. Hill's first principle is definiteness of purpose. Who is the version of you that has already won? How does that person breathe? How do they speak? How do they treat the barista? How do they handle a crisis? To act as if everything works out, you must have a burning desire for a specific outcome. You must write it out. The check. Just as Bruce Lee wrote a check to himself, just as Jim Carrey did, you must define the life you are acting out. The mirror. Stand before the mirror tonight. Look into your own eyes. Tell yourself, with emotion, that you are already that person. The universe hates ambiguity. It responds to clarity. When you are vague, your life is vague. When you are definite, the world makes way for you. As Hill famously said, the world has the habit of making room for the man whose words and actions show that he knows where he is going. Start walking faster. Speak with more finality. Dress like the person who owns the company, not the person applying for the job. This is the physical manifestation of your mental state. You cannot maintain this frequency alone. The energy of the world is heavy. It will try to drag you back to the average. Hill introduced us to the mastermind principle. No mind is complete by itself. If you are going to act as if everything works out, you must surround yourself with people who do not tolerate your petty complaints. You need people who, when you stumble, do not say, "I told you so," but rather, "Get up, we have work to do." You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you are acting as a king, but you dwell among jesters, you will eventually put on the mask of a fool. Protect your mind. It is your most valuable asset. Close the door to the naysayers. Close the door to the news that breeds fear. You are building a magnetic field. When your vibration is strong, you will attract the resources, the people, and the opportunities that harmonize with your dominant thoughts. We are at the end of the hour, but at the beginning of your life. Here is your instruction. For the next 30 days, I want you to run an experiment. Wake up every morning and say, "I ask not for fewer burdens, but for broader shoulders. I know that infinite intelligence is guiding my every step." When trouble comes, and it will, smile at it. Treat it as a plot twist in a movie where you are the hero who cannot die. Act as if the solution is already on its way. Walk with your head high. Shake hands with a firm grip. Look people in the eye. Do not wait for the evidence. Be the evidence. Be the evidence that change is possible. Be the evidence that faith works. Be the evidence that a human being, armed with a definite purpose and unwavering faith, is a force of nature that cannot be denied. Napoleon Hill told us, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." You have conceived it. Now, go out there and believe it. Everything is working out for you. It starts now. This acts as the second hour of the audio experience. If the first hour was the awakening, this hour is the mastery, dealing with the inevitable resistance, the time delays, and the deeper metaphysical laws Napoleon Hill described in his later works like Outwitting the Devil. The initial rush of motivation has likely faded. You made the declaration to act as if. But then, Monday morning arrived. The bank account didn't change overnight. The problem at work is still there. This is where most people quit. They say, I tried that positive thinking stuff. It didn't work. Napoleon Hill warned us of a force called hypnotic rhythm. It is the tendency of the universe to make your habits permanent. If you have spent 20 years worrying, you have a 20-year groove of hypnotic rhythm, keeping you in a state of fear. To act as if is to declare war on your old rhythm. You are currently in the time delay. This is the gap between the moment you plant the seed and the moment the sprout breaks the soil. In this gap, the universe is testing you. It asks, do you believe because you see it? Or do you see it because you believe it? Most people drift. Hill said that 98% of people are drifters. They let life happen to them. A non-drifter happens to life. When you are in the time delay, you must not drift back to your old self. You must double down. When the result isn't there yet, you don't panic. You say, this delay is simply the universe gathering the resources I requested. You are not waiting. You are incubating. Let us revisit the most famous story in the Hill canon. Are you Darby and the gold mine? He went west to dig for gold. He found it. He bought the machinery. He dug and dug. And then, the vein of gold disappeared. He drilled on, desperate. Finally, he quit. He sold his machinery to a junk man for a few $100s and went home in defeat. The junk man called an engineer. The engineer calculated that the vein had shifted. He dug just 3 feet from where Darby had stopped. The junk man became a millionaire. Are you Darby became a cautionary tale. Why do I tell you this? Because right now, you are likely 3 feet from your breakthrough. The temptation to stop acting as if is strongest just before the tide turns. The resistance is always heaviest at the threshold of the door. When you act as if everything is working out, you are the engineer. You are calculating the shift. You don't stop digging because you don't see the gold. You know the gold is there. It is a geological fact of your new reality. To stop now is to leave your fortune for the junk man. Do not let your doubts sell your dreams for pennies. Let's go deeper into the engine room. How do you fuel this mindset? You cannot act as if with low energy. You need fuel. Hill spoke of the transmutation of sex energy, which simply means taking your most potent creative drive and redirecting it from physical expression to professional or creative achievement. But there is another transmutation you must master today, the transmutation of fear. Fear and faith are the same force. They are both expectations of a future that hasn't happened yet. Fear is faith in the bad outcome. Faith is fear of the good outcome, in the sense of awe. When you feel that knot in your stomach, that anxiety, do not numb it. That is raw energy. A leader does not suppress anxiety, they alchemize it. Take that nervous energy and say, this is my excitement. This is my body preparing for the massive opportunity coming my way. Relabel your emotions. If you lose a client, the feeling isn't loss. The feeling is clearing space. If you are criticized, the feeling isn't shame. The feeling is recognition. You are taking the lead and turning it into gold. You are using the energy of the obstacle to propel you over it. Now look outward. You are not just doing this for yourself. When you act as if everything works out, you become a lighthouse in a storm for everyone around you. Leadership is not about being in charge. It is about taking care of those in your charge. When a leader panics, the team collapses. When a parent worries, the child becomes anxious. But when you, despite the chaos, remain calm, when you smile when the numbers are down, you give your team the greatest gift of all, safety. You act as if it works out so they can breathe. You are borrowing belief from the future and lending it to your team in the present. I don't know exactly how we will fix this, you say, but I know we will, and we will be better for it. That is the definition of a visionary. A visionary sees the bridge before it is built. By holding this frequency, you do not just change your life. You elevate the vibration of your company, your family, and your community. You become the standard bearer of optimism. We are nearing the end of our journey. If you persist in this, if you refuse to drift, if you dig that last 3 feet, a new law takes over. Hill called it cosmic habit force. Just as the hypnotic rhythm once kept you in failure, cosmic habit force will eventually lock you into success. There comes a tipping point. Suddenly, acting as if isn't an act anymore. It is your nature. Good things start happening to you automatically. People say you are lucky. You are not lucky. You have simply aligned yourself with the natural laws of the universe. You have conditioned the ether to respond to your desires. You have moved from the effort phase to the flow phase. But you must earn this. You must pay the price of admission, which is persistence during the time delay. So, here is the covenant for the second hour. The next time something goes wrong, you will pause. You will not react. You will respond. You will say to the universe, I see what you are doing. You are moving pieces on the board to set me up for a win. I trust the process. Walk out of this door today not as a person hoping for a good day, but as a person who has already decided the day is good. The script is written. You are the protagonist. And in this story, the hero wins. Act accordingly. Be the master of your fate. Be the captain of your soul. Your future is waiting for you to catch up. We have arrived at the threshold of the 13th principle, the apex of the philosophy, the sixth sense. Napoleon Hill called this the door to the temple of wisdom. Up until now, you have been acting as if using your conscious mind and your will. But willpower is a battery. It eventually drains. The sixth sense is the grid. It is the ability to know things without knowing how you know them. It is the sudden hunch, the flash of inspiration, the warning bell. To act as if everything works out at the master level is to trust these flashes explicitly. Have you ever had a gut feeling to call someone but you ignored it? That was infinite intelligence trying to hand you a shortcut. And you left it on the table. Hill taught that the sixth sense cannot be forced, but it can be invited. By acting as if you are constantly connected to a source of higher knowledge. When you are stuck, stop thinking. Close your eyes. Ask the question. And then, this is the secret, act on the very first thing that comes to mind. Do not filter it through your fear. The genius acts before the logic kicks in. The genius acts as if the hunch is a direct order from headquarters. When you start trusting your intuition, you stop struggling with the current and start floating with the river. Let me share with you Napoleon Hill's most controversial and powerful personal practice. He called it his invisible counselors. Every night, just before sleep, Hill would close his eyes and imagine a conference table. At this table, he invited the men he admired most: Emerson, Paine, Edison, Darwin, Lincoln, Ford. He would run his board meetings in his imagination. He would ask Lincoln for patience. He would ask Edison for persistence. And he swore that, over time, these characters took on a life of their own. They gave him answers he had never consciously thought of. This is the ultimate form of acting as if. You must build your own cabinet. Who is at your table? Is it a business tycoon? A spiritual leader? A grandfather who passed away? Tonight, convene your meeting. When you face a crisis, do not ask, "What should I do?" Ask, "What would they do?" Then act as if you are them. If you need to negotiate a deal, channel the fiercest negotiator you know. Walk into the room wearing their skin. Adopt their posture. You are not pretending. You are accessing a frequency of behavior that already exists. You are borrowing their genius until you develop your own. Let us ground this back into the earth. How does this philosophy manifest in your paycheck? Hill gave us a formula that never fails. QQS: quality of service, quantity of service, spirit of service. Most people stop at quality and quantity. They do the job well, and they do enough of it. But they fail on the third, spirit. They do the work, but they do it with a grudge. They do it while watching the clock. To act as if everything works out means you work with the spirit of a partner, not an employee. You render more service than you are paid for. This is the law of increasing returns. When you go the extra mile, you put the universe in your debt. You act as if you are already the CEO, so you sweep the floor like a CEO would, with pride, not resentment. You act as if you are already wealthy, so you give generously of your time and attention. A person who works only for their wage will never be paid more than their wage. But the person who works for the vision, who delivers service with a spirit of joy and abundance, that person becomes indispensable. The universe must balance the scales. If you consistently give more than you get, the overflow must eventually come back to you in cash, opportunity, or influence. It is a mathematical certainty. What is the one thing that kills the as if mindset faster than anything else? Indecision. In his conversation with the devil, a metaphor for negative energy, Hill discovered that the primary tool of failure is drifting. A drifter is someone who lets the winds of circumstance blow them around. They cannot decide. They say, "I'll think about it. Maybe later. I'm not sure." Successful men and women share one trait. They reach decisions quickly, and they change them slowly. Unsuccessful people reach decisions slowly and change them quickly. To act as if you are successful, you must become a person of decision. Stop agonizing. Should I launch the product? Yes or no? Decide. Should I take the trip? Yes or no? Decide. The wrong decision is better than no decision. A wrong decision can be corrected. Indecision is a rotting of the soul. When you act with decisiveness, the world gets out of your way. The Red Sea parts for the person who walks forward. It drowns the person who stands still. Be the person who decides. We live in the age of distraction. Your attention is the currency everyone wants to steal. Hill spoke of controlled attention. This is the act of coordinating all your mind's faculties and directing them at a single purpose. You cannot act as if you are scrolling. You cannot act as if you are multitasking. The master acts with total presence. When you are with your family, be with them. Act as if they are the only people on earth. When you are working, work. Act as if your life depends on that hour of focus. This intensity is magnetic. Have you ever met someone who listens to you so completely that you feel like the most important person in the room? That is controlled attention. That is the hallmark of charisma. Reclaim your focus. It is the only thing you truly own. We have spent 3 hours dismantling the old you and building the framework for the new. You now have the tools, the definiteness of purpose, the mastermind, the habit of going the extra mile, the sixth sense. But tools are useless in the hands of a coward. The final ingredient is courage. You must have the courage to be different, the courage to be misunderstood, the courage to bet on yourself when the odds say no. You are now the alchemist. You are the architect. The world is pliable. It is soft clay in your hands. Do not ask it for permission. Mold it. Wake up tomorrow and put on the suit of your future self. Walk into the fire. Trust the invisible counselors. And know with every fiber of your being that the universe is not indifferent to you. It is listening. It is watching. And it is waiting to yield its treasures to the person who demands them. Act as if. Because eventually, you will not be acting. You will simply be. This is your life. Make it a masterpiece. You have committed to the path. You are walking differently. You are speaking with authority. And because of this, you have awakened a sleeping giant, the criticism of others. Napoleon Hill identified the fear of criticism as one of the 6 basic fears that rob humanity of its birthright. Why do we stop acting as if? Usually it is because someone asked, "Who do you think you are?" Relatives, friends, and the mediocrity of the masses will try to pull you back into line. They will call you unrealistic. They will call you arrogant. You must understand this. Criticism is the defense mechanism of the static against the dynamic. When you move, you create wind. The wind disturbs those who are standing still. To maintain your mindset, you must build an immunity. When you hear criticism, do not internalize it. Translate it. When they say, "That's risky," hear, "I am afraid." When they say, "Be realistic," hear, "I have accepted my limitations." You are not responsible for their limitations. You are responsible for your potential. Hill said, "Opinions are the cheapest commodities on earth. Everyone has a flock of them ready to be wished upon anyone who will accept them. Do not accept them. Walk through the criticism as if it were mist. It cannot stop you. It can only wet your clothes. Let us sharpen your mind. Enthusiasm is the engine, but accurate thinking is the steering wheel. To act as if everything works out is not to be a fool. It is not to ignore a gas leak because you are thinking positive. Hill taught that the accurate thinker takes 2 steps. They separate facts from mere information. They separate important facts from unimportant facts. Most of the doom and gloom you consume is not fact. It is opinion disguised as news. The economy is crashing is often an opinion. My sales are down 10% is a fact. You deal with facts. You ignore opinions. If you lose your job, the fact is, I have free time and skills. The opinion is, I am a failure. Reject the opinion. Leverage the fact. Accurate thinking allows you to look at a disaster and see the mechanics of it, rather than the emotion of it. When you strip away the emotion, the solution often appears immediately. Act as if you are a scientist of your own life. Cold, calculated, and optimistic because you know the laws of physics are on your side. Now we touch the spiritual bedrock. You cannot scam the universe. You cannot act as if you are a success while tearing others down. Hill was adamant about the Golden Rule, not just as a religious text, but as a scientific law of physics. The law of compensation: you get out exactly what you put in. If you want the world to conspire in your favor, you must conspire in the favor of others. You want people to trust you? Act as if you trust them. You want people to invest in you? Invest in them. If you are acting as if you are a leader, you must serve. There is a trap where people use these techniques for pure selfishness. It always backfires. The energy stagnates. But when your definite purpose benefits others, when your success lifts your family, your employees, your community, you unlock a force multiplier. Infinite intelligence supports that which supports life. Make your success necessary for the success of others, and you will become impossible to fail. We are 4 hours deep. You are motivated. But what happens when you are tired? What happens when the adrenaline is gone? There is only one thing left: self-discipline. Hill called this the master key. It is the only thing you have absolute control over. You cannot control the weather. You cannot control the market. You can only control your reaction. Acting as if requires emotional sobriety. Do not get too high on the wins. Do not get too low on the losses. When you land the big deal, stay cool. Act as if it's normal. When you lose the big deal, stay cool. Act as if it's part of the plan. This is the discipline of the Stoic. If you allow your emotions to be jerked around by external events, you are not a master, you are a puppet. Cut the strings. Wake up at the time you said you would. Eat what you said you would. Work when you said you would. Your subconscious mind watches you. If you break promises to yourself, it stops believing you. Keep your word to yourself, and your confidence will become iron. Napoleon Hill studied 25,000 people. The number one cause of failure was lack of persistence. Many people act as if for a week. A master acts as if for a lifetime. There is a concept called the compound effect. In the beginning, your efforts seem invisible. You are pushing a boulder. It doesn't move. You push for a month. Nothing. You push for a year. It moves an inch. Most people quit here. They say, "A year for an inch? It's not working." But the master knows that once the boulder starts rolling, momentum takes over. You are building momentum right now, even if you cannot see it. The bamboo tree grows underground for 5 years, building a root system. In the 5th year, it shoots up 80 feet in 6 weeks. You are in the underground phase. Do not dig up the seed to see if it's growing. Trust the soil. Water it with action. Warm it with faith. Persistence is to the character of man as carbon is to steel. We have journeyed through the awakening, the action, the spirit, and the fortress. You now possess the complete philosophy. Lose your eyes one last time. Visualize the version of you that exists 5 years from now. See them clearly. They are not worried. They are not rushing. They are smiling. They are looking back at you, right now in this moment, and they are saying, "Thank you. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for acting the part until we became the part. The gap between you and them is only time. And time is an illusion. In the mind of infinite intelligence, you are already that person. Go forth from this experience. When you open your eyes, you are no longer a person trying to succeed. You are a success who is simply working out the details. Everything is always working out for you. Everything. Boys, the play has begun. Walk onto the stage. We have discussed the mind as a garden and the mind as a fortress. Now, we must discuss the mind as a broadcasting station. Napoleon Hill was not just a philosopher. He was a student of the invisible forces. He likened the human brain to a radio. It is constantly sending out vibrations and receiving them. This is why acting as if works on a physical level. When you walk into a room terrified, you are broadcasting a frequency of fear. Even if you say the right words, people recoil. They don't know why, but they don't trust you. You are jamming your own signal. Conversely, when you act as if everything works out, you switch your transmitter to the frequency of confidence. Hill taught that thoughts which are mixed with feeling are magnetic. If you are merely thinking you are successful, but feeling afraid, the fear signal wins. It is stronger. You must align the signal. For the next 15 minutes, imagine you are sitting at a control panel. You have a dial. Turn down the static of worry. Turn up the volume of expectation. When you meet someone today, act as if you are transferring energy to them. Broadcast, I mean you well. Broadcast, I am a solution to your problem. The ether carries these vibrations. Before you even open your mouth, the sale is half made. Of all the frequencies that jam our signal, the loudest is the fear of poverty. It paralyzes more people than any other force. It makes you play small. It makes you hoard. It makes you say, I can't afford it. To act as if everything always works out is to break the paralysis of scarcity. This does not mean you spend money you do not have foolishly. It means you stop making decisions based on lack. Hill observed that the wealthy man does not focus on saving pennies. He focuses on earning dollars. When you are in a state of abundance, you are creative. When you are in a state of poverty, you are reactive. You must mentally act as if you are already secure. Walk past the expensive store and instead of saying, I can't, say, that will be mine. Pay your bills with gratitude, not resentment. Act as if there is always more where that came from. Nature abhors a vacuum. If you hold on to everything tight-fisted, nothing new can get in. Open your hand. Circulate your energy. Operate from a place of more than enough. This shift in vibration changes how you look at opportunities. You stop seeing risks, you start seeing investments. You cannot succeed in isolation. You need the cooperation of others. Hill identified the pleasing personality as a major asset in the struggle for riches. This isn't about being a doormat. It is about being magnetic. How do you act as if socially? You act as if you are the host of every room you enter. The host makes others feel comfortable. The host listens. The host connects. Most people walk into a room wondering, what do these people think of me? The master walks into a room wondering, how can I make these people feel great about themselves? When you act with this level of grace, you trigger the law of reciprocity. People want to help you. They want to be around you. Hill said, "The man who can get others to cooperate with him has a power which no amount of money can buy." Smile. It is the cheapest and most powerful signal you can broadcast. Be interested, not just interesting. When you make others feel important, the universe makes you important. We must address the engine of your ambition. Hill dedicated an entire chapter to the mystery of sex transmutation. Put simply, the drive to create life is the most powerful drive in nature. It is raw, high-octane chemical energy. Most people waste it. They let it dissipate in physical indulgence or frustration. The genius transmutes it. To act as if is to take that intense desire for contact, for expression, for conquest, and channel it into your definite chief aim. When you feel restless, when you feel that high energy, do not numb it. That is your creative fuel. Sit down at your desk and pour that fire into your work. Write the proposal with that intensity. Build the product with that passion. This gives your work a glow that others can feel. It makes your voice more persuasive. It makes your presence more commanding. You are taking the raw material of life and turning it into legacy. Do not waste the fire. Burn it in the engine of your purpose. As we approach the end of the 5th hour, we seek harmony. You cannot broadcast a clear signal if your machine is rattling apart. You must be at peace with yourself to be at war with your obstacles. To act as if everything works out is to possess a peace of mind that passes understanding. It is the ability to sleep soundly in the middle of a crisis. Because you know the governor of the universe is on the job. Hill spoke of the power of prayer, not as a plea for help, but as a prayer of gratitude. The weak pray, "Please give me this." The master prays, "Thank you for the strength to acquire this." Act as if you have already received it. Be grateful before the check clears. Be grateful before the healing comes. This gratitude creates a harmony in your mind that repels fear. You cannot be grateful and afraid at the same time. Choose gratitude. It is the frequency of reception. You are awake. You are armed. You are transmitting. The world outside is noisy. It is full of people who have given up. They will try to tell you that life is hard, that dreams are foolish, that you should settle. You will look at them with compassion, but you will not listen. Because you know the secret. You know that thoughts are things. You know that everything always works out for you, not by magic, but by the relentless application of law. You are no longer a victim of circumstance. You are a creator of circumstance. As you remove your headphones, as you step back into the silence of your reality, carry this frequency with you. Protect it with your life. Because it is your life.